Right, were you
I had to
lifting
have
something?
emergency surgery, but, well, actually, that's actually the reason we officially told so the tabloids didn't get on to the real reason.
Oh, what's the real reason you went to the hospital?
In 1980, he became one of the biggest stars on television. 6 months later, the show went on without him. No public explanation. No farewell. Just silence. For 50 years, Tom Selleck was the most reliable man in American television. Thomas Magnum, Jesse Stone, Frank Reagan. An icon of steady masculinity. Calm, principled, unflappable. The kind of presence so rock solid, no one ever thought to ask what it cost him to keep standing. What almost no one knows is this. He lost James Bond before Magnum ever existed. He lost Indiana Jones at the absolute peak of his prime. He poured 14 years into a beloved franchise, only to be quietly written out of its future without a real conversation. And through it all, he never called any of it the worst thing that ever happened to him, because something else already held that title. So what broke Tom Selleck first? The body that carried him through decades of stunts? The career of near misses? Or the private heart that cameras were never allowed to see? And at 81, on 60 acres where the spotlight can't reach, what is he still carrying? This is the story they didn't tell you. Detroit, Michigan, January 29th, 1945. The war in Europe was winding down, but America was still suspended between sacrifice and victory, between the fathers who hadn't come home yet and the future waiting to be claimed. Into that uncertain moment, Robert and Martha Selleck welcomed their second son, Thomas William Selleck. He arrived with nothing and would spend a lifetime learning exactly how much a man can carry. The family soon moved west to California, settling in Sherman Oaks in the San Fernando Valley. Post-war California felt like pure possibility. Sun-drenched, optimistic, a place where fresh starts were practically the state religion. His father was a driven real estate executive who believed in effort, outcomes, and zero tolerance for excuses. His mother brought warmth to balance the discipline. Together, they raised 4 kids in a home where achievement wasn't optional. Tom was always the tall one. By high school at Grant High, his size turned heads before he even opened his mouth. Coordinated, competitive, serious. He excelled at baseball and basketball, not with flashy ease, but with a focused intensity that made it look effortless. Basketball wasn't just a sport. It was his dream, a clear, burning vision of going pro. But before we get started, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe button, because you never know when YouTube decides to hide my videos from your homepage. And, of course, leave your thoughts in the comments section. Now, let's jump into it. He earned a scholarship to USC. He stepped on campus carrying that quiet confidence of a kid who was genuinely good at something he loved. Then, reality hit. He played just 7 games for the Trojans. Total points scored? 4. 4 points. The gap between being exceptional in high school and surviving at the elite college level was mercilessly clear. The coaches weren't cruel. The truth was, Tom Selleck didn't rage, didn't quit on himself, and didn't blame the game. He simply absorbed the silence after the door closed and started looking for the next true thing. That next thing found him sideways, as real callings often do. A modeling suggestion led to acting classes. What people saw wasn't just an athlete, it was a man with a rare gift for stillness, a presence that didn't demand attention, but commanded it. The camera loved something authentic in him. But Hollywood doesn't hand out success for potential. The years that followed were long, honest, and grinding. Bit parts, commercials, episodic TV in the early 70s, small credits that slowly built a foundation with no guarantee it would ever lead anywhere. During those uncertain years, from 1967 to 1973, Tom Selleck served in the California Army National Guard, 6 years as a young man during the height of the Vietnam era. He rarely spoke about it later. No grand stories, no leveraging it for image. He simply served, integrated the experience and let it deepen the quiet seriousness that would define his work. In 1971, he married actress Jackie Ray. She stood by him through the auditions that went nowhere, the callbacks that vanished, and the lean years when hope was rationed carefully. She believed in him before the world had any reason to. He would later call her faith during those silent times a kind of grace. Then, in 1976, momentum shifted. A recurring role on The Young and the Restless, followed by bigger opportunities, including a serious brush with becoming the next James Bond. The offer was real. It nearly happened. A prior commitment pulled it away. He went back to work. In 1980, the phone rang with destiny attached. CBS wanted him for a new Hawaii-based show, Magnum PI. Thomas Sullivan Magnum, a Vietnam vet, private investigator, living on a lavish estate with a red Ferrari and a style of warm, intelligent masculinity television hadn't quite seen before. It was the role of a lifetime. He said yes. What no one warns you about is that when the light finally finds you, it doesn't just illuminate. At that intensity, it burns. Magnum PI exploded. Within weeks, Tom Selleck went from working actor to cultural phenomenon. 60 million viewers. The mustache, the Ferrari, the laugh, all iconic. Thomas Magnum became a beloved fixture in American homes. But somewhere in that explosion, Thomas William Selleck began to quietly disappear. His first marriage didn't survive the sudden hurricane of fame. The demands were total. The man Jackie had supported through obscurity was replaced by someone the entire world wanted a piece of. They divorced in 1982. Decades later, Selleck would describe it plainly as the worst thing that ever happened to him. Think about that. Worse than the basketball dream ending in 4 points. Worse than losing out on James Bond or Indiana Jones. Worse than the physical toll that would later demand stunt doubles just to step out of a car. That single sentence reveals the real man beneath the icon. What he valued most wasn't the fame, the Ferraris, or the headlines. It was private connection, ordinary belonging, being known deeply by someone before the world formed its opinion. The divorce also cost him his relationship with Jackie's son Kevin, whom he had adopted and raised as his own during the struggling years. That quiet loss stayed with him too. Magnum ran 8 seasons. Selleck brought emotional depth and genuine warmth to the role that elevated it beyond action tropes. Awards followed, an Emmy, Golden Globe nominations, but he always seemed slightly detached from the spotlight, as if the public version of himself was a performance, while the real man stayed private. During the show's run, he had to turn down Steven Spielberg and George Lucas for Indiana Jones. His Magnum contract was ironclad. He honored it without public complaint. "I made a deal," he said later. "That's the end of it. Regret acknowledged, then released. Life moves in the direction of your commitments." In 1987, he married British actress and dancer Gilly Mack in a deeply private ceremony. They've been together nearly 40 years now, a rare, steady anchor in an industry that treats long marriages like anomalies. Their daughter Hannah grew up to become a top equestrian, embodying the same quiet excellence her father modeled. They built a life on a 60-plus acre working ranch in Hidden Valley, California, once owned by Dean Martin. Not a celebrity playground, but a real place of soil, fences, avocado trees, and early mornings. Tom planted trees, fixed what broke, and tended the land himself. It became his sanctuary, the one thing that existed independent of ratings, renewals, and Hollywood's whims. "It keeps me sane," he said. "Real work, tangible results." The 1990s and beyond brought steady, trustworthy roles. Then the Jesse Stone movies let him explore deeper waters, a flawed, grieving man who simply shows up and does the job anyway. It resonated because Selleck understood it. In 2010 came Blue Bloods. As Frank Reagan, the principled NYPD commissioner and family patriarch, he delivered 14 seasons and nearly 300 episodes of moral weight, restraint, and quiet authority. Sunday dinners became cultural touchstones. The show thrived as one of CBS's longest-running dramas, making him one of the most watched actors on network TV. Then, in late 2024, it ended.
The franchise continued in a spin-off without him. The man who had been its steady gravitational center for 14 years was not invited to carry it forward. He has spoken of the cancellation as a huge disappointment, expressing he still doesn't fully understand why it happened when the show remains strong. He has been measured about the spin-off, noting it's another show, and that his lot in life might be to preserve Blue Blood's place in history rather than keep playing Frank Reagan indefinitely.
At 81, the body shows the wear of decades doing his own stunts. Back issues, joint pain, arthritis that slowed him down. Yet he remains resilient, still drawn to meaningful work, still tending his ranch, still married to the same woman, still carrying himself with that signature dignity. Tom Selleck never chased the spotlight. He built a career on showing up, honoring commitments, and protecting what mattered most in private. He lost bigger movie roles, watched fame reshape his personal life, endured physical pain, and saw a long-running franchise move on without him. Through it all, he chose steadiness over spectacle, loyalty over leverage, the ranch and his family over the noise. In an industry and a world that often rewards flash and reinvention, Tom Selleck reminds us of something rare: the power of quiet strength, kept promises, and a life measured not by what you take, but by what you carry and what you refuse to let break you. That's the man behind the mustache. What do you think he's still carrying on that ranch today?